Okay, welcome everyone. It's 6 o'clock. So we're going to call, I got enough. We're going to call the budget meeting to order. This is just a workshop for the council to go over everything with Conrad to try to finalize everything on the budget. It's discussion only. There is no action. So with that, Conrad, if you can give us the overview on any of the ongoing and one-time budget requests. I see also on there, item A is overview of the fire department requests. And then item B is further questions on all fiscal year 25 proposed budget and or tax rate. We have everybody here. Thank you for the council for adjusting your days to make this one happen. And Conrad, I'll turn it over to you so we can try to wrap up this this tax stuff and budget stuff and all the good talks. So Conrad.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. It's good to be here to talk to you about budget. I guess the biggest thing that I want to start with is that you have in front of you a balanced budget. And as you have this budget, please note that as you make recommendations, as you do different things, we update this this budget. So mine's dated 9/4. It's been updated probably twice since then, and that's probably what you have in your packets from last time. But a lot of them a lot of changes are cosmetic, and we've heard from some of you about some cosmetic changes. And I think you'll be pleased at most of those as you get them. But you can download them from the front page of our website. It's been there. Yes, sir. Front page of the website, there's a way to... Oh, it's been moved from the front page? Oh. Yeah, you don't have to go into like through... Yeah, it should have been there.
They do all have copies.
You're right. Okay, so, and I showed you last time how you can find and see that it's a balanced budget, and the meaning of that is that revenues equals expenditures. So FY25 revenues equal FY25 expenditures. So all the different things. And we're going to talk about ongoing and one-time expenses here in a second. We did, just to review real quickly, we did talk about the tax rate, the proposed tax rate. Next time you will have a public hearing next Tuesday, and then we'll ask you to vote on the tax rate as well as the budget. Well, before I leave the tax rate, the overall tax rate, which includes that 3.5% that we talked about, but also it includes broken up the M&O rate and the INS rate, which is the debt service rate, and the maintenance and operation, which is general fund rate. So you'll see all that, and you'll have an ordinance in front of you that identifies all the things that we've been talking about on the tax rate. The tax rate, unfortunately, per state law, will not be voted on until after you've approved the budget. So it seemed like it should be the opposite, and to me anyway, that you should approve the tax rate first and then the budget second, since the budget includes those calculations. But state law requires us to approve the budget first, and this will be next week, and then the tax rate after that. With that, I wanted to hit some of the major items, the big things. Overall, and most of the line items is just operations of the city, and it hasn't changed virtually at all, other than what I told you, that our chart of accounts has changed. We've tried to keep it close. But some things that weren't in one line item last year are included in a line item. You may see a little jump or whatever. If you have specific questions about any of those things, please let me know anytime. and I can explain it to you. You'll see that it's very, very minimal, if no change at all, and sometimes lower than current year for FY25. But I did want to go over the major ones that I thought you'd be very interested in. That may not have changed a lot, but it's the majority of the budget. Of our close to $4.4 million budget, you'll notice that the fire department has about half of that. So we're going to talk about fire department tonight, and I'll do a brief overview of the fire department and some of their line items. Well, the chief's here prepared for that. We've talked about it, you know about it, but that's half of our budget right there. And you'll see in one of the line items that we transferred from the general fund to the public safety fund. And you'll see that exact amount, and we'll tell you everything that it's for, and the chief will go over it, and it's things that you've already seen. It's no new surprises, but we thought we'd talk about those things. And of that budget, of that public safety budget, number one, you won't be surprised, are employee costs. I mean, employees run the fire department. The other additional things that they have over there are about 20% of the budget, and the personnel, which includes salary and benefits, are right around 80% in the fire department. In the general administration budget, it's less than that overall. But I thought that we'd quickly go through the salary plan. Last year, it was very well received by all the staff that the council approved the first salary plan for the city. And we haven't changed the salary plan. It stays status quo from what you approved before. However, we have the following changes in here, and I wanted you to be aware of those. In the fire, as part of that approved salary plan, they have 7 steps within the fire plan, and all those steps are subject to a positive performance review. So steps don't come unless the chief tells them that they're doing a good job, or at least a 3, an average job. And then they get to move up those steps. And every one of those steps are worth 3%. And as you know, that salary plan was based on the initial step, or the initial amount was based on an analysis of our Pick 6 cities, all of the cities around us, and we took, actually it's lowest out of all Pick 6 for starting base, and then we did the steps from there, and we did this, and the administration has a minimum, median, and maximum amount, and in between those it's not steps, it's just based on performance in there.
And the steps that are based on the performance, those are pay increases, correct, as the percentages, so that's already in the budget. That is in the budget right now, and I was going to tell you about that. And then we did this because of retention, correct? We wanted to make sure that we are in the goal of retaining versus training, paying, and they move on, and we lose what we trained, right? Okay.
We'll budget for each step, regardless of the employee, again, it's based on evaluation, evaluations. That's a big part. They go score 3.0 or higher on evaluation to get this. We budget for a lot, a step increase.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I know budget, just making sure that the increase, because I guess the variable of that increase is unknown until you do the sit down with them and go over the review. So you are budgeting the max. Okay, good. Just making sure.
Okay.
Thanks.
And we'll talk about on the one-time and ongoing, we'll talk about specifics within the fire budget, but that salary plan I wanted to get through. Of that salary plan, we're moving all the fire guys up to their next step. So it's 3% or less, because there's a handful of them that are in between a step. And that was just due to some that we had an issue, and so they are making a little bit more, and but they're only going to get up to the next step, just like council approved. Administration, We put a 3% COLA for those in the administration. As you know, in the administration, there's only 6 employees, six full-time, with a couple of market, and there's 1 fire adjustment for the market, and 2 in the administration. The 2 statutory employees, the city administrator and the city secretary, due to the having previous within the last 6 months reviews by the council, have no changes. So there's nothing in the budget increase or anything for those 2 statutories. So that's what that is. So from that, let's go to the approved, in the approved budget, there's one time and ongoing. And in the one time and ongoing, you notice, and I broke this up into, and I'll talk about it in this way. We have public safety, fire, general administration, the utility fund, and it isn't really a fund, but I thought it was a big enough spend or request for money that we pulled out the temporary building. So we can talk about that, because those are the substantial amounts of money being asked. And these are new things. But what I'm going to talk about today are things that have worked in your city budget. And so right now it's a balanced budget. The ongoing total, so when I say ongoing and one time, ongoing is the council saying we're good with that, knowing that it's going to be this coming year, the next year, it's those type of projects, and I'll tell you what they are. And then the one time are one-time expenses, and then they're done, or they're capital things. They won't come back for 5 or 7 or 10 years or whatever. And I'll tell you what they are. So I'm going to go down through this, and I'll try to do it fast, but I want to tell specifics, because these are the new things to the budget, and I want you to make sure you know about it. It's on this page, on what I gave you last time for my notes.
Oh, from
Last time. It was in last week's information that I gave to you. This, that looked like this, that had 3 quotes on the front. I will, as soon as I finish, I will go make copies of this again. So everything we talk about, you'll have it again, and you'll have my color-coded copy so I can make my presentation better, and you can follow that. In fact, I'll go to another area and ask our city secretary. Right here. No, you take this, and I will go to another section, and I'll talk about the sewer fund right now, and we'll come back to that, so we won't even waste time, and you'll have it in front of you again. Okay, let's talk about the utility fund, which I also call the sewer fund, because we don't have any other utilities in it. If you look at that, no, there's a utility fund that you have in there. 18. These are the things that have happened in that fund. It's a large fund, and you'll notice that currently it has about a $1.7 million fund balance, if you look on there. And based on a couple of things, when we do in the budget, we look at a couple of things. One is this sheet of paper, which will make you that too. This comes from the study that the council did with a professional consulting firm that evaluated all of our sanitary sewer funds and their projections on where the rates should go for the next 7 years. If you notice on here, October 25, it says that the rate should go to $81.12. Currently, the rate for 927 residents right now that are hooked onto sanitary sewer, the rest of the residents of the 2,100 in the city are on septic sewer. So it's about half. There's more on septic than sanitary right now. but it's close to half. It's like 46, 47% are on sanitary sewer and 53%, 54% are on septic. The projection from the professional consultant was in FY '25, we go to 8112, based on all the approved plan that the council has. The current rate is 7411, but don't react yet, because I'll tell you what else happened. We also have a letter here, which I'll give you. Well, it's part of a letter, but it's all the data from the letter, from the city of Rockwall. And as you know, all of our sewer goes through the city of Rockwall on the backside. All the culinary or potable water comes from North Texas through the city of Rockwall, and we have a meter, and it goes past that meter between Rockwall and the city of McLendon-Chisholm, and it goes to RCH, and it's metered and charged. It goes through our system, as you know, and people get drinks out of their sink, out of their refrigerators. They flush toilets, they take showers, they brush their teeth. Whatever the hand, the lever, or the dial that they're turning is all all potable, drinkable, culinary water. Where does it go when you flush, when you take a shower, when you get a drink, when you it goes back in line, and all of a sudden it's called wastewater or effluent. And so the effluent goes back and goes through another meter at Rockwall City, and they have a meter, and they charge us to accept that water, and it goes into the Buffalo Creek Interceptor, which then goes on to the North Texas sewer treatment facility, wastewater treatment facility, and they treat it. And I'm not sure what North Texas does with it again. A lot of cities circle it back around and go put right back into the water treatment and through a bunch of things. It's all meets state guidelines. Talking with city manager of the city of Rockwall, who we pass it through the city. I can say North Texas because they again pass it through North Texas. They get charged by North Texas, so I don't want to just throw the city of Rockwall under the bus. I'll throw both of them. But they're going to charge us more. It costs more to do business, and you'll see in this well, I don't know if you have that. I'll get you the sheet too. And they're charging additional money for us to go through. So the increases of those dollar amounts are pass through is the number. Right? It's just going right. They're going to charge us more, so we have to charge more to our residents. So the difference between 7411 and what you end up on as a bill is money that it'll go right. We'll collect it from the resident and go right to Rockwall, and then Rockwall will pay North Texas because that's who treats the water. So I just wanted to make sure you understood where and how it all happened. Well, yes, it's actually even more, but we'll talk about that. And I'll get this, and you can look at the detailed numbers on these sheets right here. But you already knew through this study, and that's why I started with you, that it's projected to go to 81. Last year, it was projected to go to 7511. The council approved 7411. So we dropped off a little to subsidize, if you want to use that, to help out the residents. Because you also saw when I started, the very first thing I led with, and you can see on your budget, is there's about a $1,700 fund balance. $1.7 million fund balance. What did I just say? Okay, so it's 1.7 million. And you think, oh, what do we know? Why do we have that? You know what? As lots of people know, things break. Just in the past year, we had close to just under $100,000 in lift stations and others. Equipment gets old and equipment breaks. There's a useful life. Yes, sir. Well, I'm working toward that. I'm easing you into this. I'm dropping you into this. What they're paying for their potable water versus what they're paying for their sewer. Well, the delta is that it costs differently to run a wastewater treatment facility and take care of the waste according to state standards versus how much it costs to go through a water treatment facility for potable water and distribute it, and the cost of RCH and all their costs versus the cost. We don't have any costs. We collect from the residents, and Rockwell sends us a bill. It goes through the meter, and we have a rate that they raised this year so they could pay their costs. And it's just, look, it costs us more from North Texas, so we're going to charge you more. And so that's the delta of, but we do have costs in running our sewer system, our sanitary sewer, in the equipment, in the lift stations, in the pumps, and other things like that. Okay. So let me get through this so you can understand that. Okay. Thank you. So we there's where my notes are there. We as a staff, and I know thinking, I mean, as we set this, we're thinking of you because you set this. We don't set this. You set this. But we want to give you a good working ability to set this right. In a private business, you try to make things balance, and then you put some money away for a rainy day in case things break, in case something happens. Like this past year, we had just under $100,000 of problems that we had to, and you have to do it. I mean, sewer's coming, you got to do it. I mean, you can't say, let's think about it. So we're proposing, the proposed pass-through actually goes, that's pass-through just from 7411 to 8444 is 100%. That includes what Rockwell's going to charge us, an emergency fund, and administrative costs of. And we actively try to do that. And if you see on like the second to last line on your budget right there, you'll see a $200,000, which you didn't see in the past, which is a 20% to pay for that emergency fund and the administrative fund, like attorney costs, accounting costs. I mean, all the different costs that staff's been budgeting and paying for in the general fund, and the utility fund should be paying their portion of that. And so that's where that came from. So that 8411, the study was 81, or was, what was the study again? The study was 8112. We're proposing a 15 cents per day increase for the residents, which equates, and I'll do the math going up, 15 cents per day increase in the sewer fee, which is $4.47 a month, and taking the current rate of $74.11 to $78.58, and propose that part of that fund balance be used to subsidize, to write it down. This is, as you know, this is an ongoing cost, paying. I mean, it's not a one-time cost, so you got to think through and whether that's the thing. But we do have we have 1.7 million, and yes, we do have to. I mean, business would say no, we do exactly breakthrough, and we're going to hit that. But We propose that you raise it to $78.58, which is, like I say, a 15-cent per day increase, $4.47 a month, and raise it from $74.11 to $78.58 is what we have proposed to you and in that current budget. So that's our utility fund, our sewer fund. That's the big step with that. The two big steps was that plus the cost allocation that we just talked about. So that's that. So if we want to go back to the thing that the chief very kindly went and copied for everybody, this sheet in the packet he gave you. I don't know if the colors, no, they didn't. All right. He did a black and white for you. He didn't push the color. But it's okay. We'll talk through. If you look at the top of the page, like the fourth column is ongoing. This right here. The fourth column, if you look at ongoing, you'll see an account ID, description of where that account ID, a chart of account goes to, the cost, and then ongoing one-time request and what fund it comes from. If you go and you want to, and since we were on the utility fund, you'll see the sewer treatment, which is the second to last line, which is in the chart of accounts 300-413-41310, sewer treatment. So our sewer treatment cost from the city of Rockwall, direct pass-through, is $100,000, is what Mary suggested. And it's right around 100, but it's 100,000 that they're going to charge us more. And we also have growth. I mean, every house that hooks on, we have new growth for sewer. So that's the only one that in this cost come under the utility fund. To go with, and we're going to talk about the temporary building in there. Let's go into the general administration, and we'll start at the very top. And you'll see the account number 100-411-41100. And we'll start there, which says vehicles, the description. And the one-time cost is a speed trailer. We have a speed trailer in there. And some people say, oh, why do you need a speed trailer? We don't have a police department. Speed trailers are positive for a police department. However, speed trailers also act without a police department to slow down traffic. It's a traffic calming device. How many times have you seen a speed trailer and your foot goes from your accelerator to your brake, not knowing who's around, what's around, and the speed trailer has done that. It's considered a traffic calming device as well as additional things. It counts traffic. The speed trailer will count how many cars are going up and down the road. So when you want to fix roads, when you want to apply for a grant or something that you need to know the number and you want to know, well, in 2024, we had this many cars per day, and now in 2025, we have this. When this new subdivision moves in here, and it adds 83 new homes at 2 cars per house, 2 to 3 cars per house, at 9 trips a day per household, you're jumping in 700 plus homes, or 700 plus trips per day that we're pulling out that weren't on 550 that now will be. How does that affect us? How does that affect our road maintenance plan? How does that affect when we go to the county or for state or for federal money, asking for the county to move up 550 on the list, and because we have data, and that comes from the speed trailer. We also know we can get speed limits off there, and we can see how fast people were driving on there for health and safety of the residents, and see, we throw out the outliers because there's always in a certain speed limit, there's always somebody, if it's 40 miles per hour, you'll have some cars that are going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour in that. and there's some that go real slow. So you throw out the bottom and top outliers, and you get a pretty good idea of how fast cars are going on that road. And do we need to make a decision as a council to lower or raise a speed limit or take reactions to that? So there's a lot of different things that the speed trailer can do that helps in different departments other than just the police department. But it definitely, most everybody thinks police department. So that's what that is. The next one is $8,500 for a utility trailer for code compliance. Our code compliance officer has been throwing all his stuff in the back of his vehicle for the useful life of a lot of equipment and other stuff, storing it in a utility trailer. It's like his little office, his inventory office. Yes.
So what kind of equipment is he storing?
Well, I don't know all the specifics of it, but I mean, he does all the patching for the roads. So all the stuff to do for the patching of that. He has, I don't know what all the equipment, that's a good thing. Let's write that down and I will get all of you, all the equipment he buys.
I'll be happy to speak up if you would like.
Okay.
All right, so he carries a lot. He does all our street sign repairs. If street signs are knocked over, he
Street
goes out,
signs.
stands them back up, and carries the road patch. So now instead of having to bend over and load it in and out of a trailer, we can actually keep it in the trailer, shelve this trailer out. We also bought road barricades. We've never had road barricades. During the storm last year, or this last storm, we had to shut down roads with apparatus. So we had fire trucks to my vehicles in places shutting down roads. Now we've actually bought road barricades. So all this stuff is going to be prepared in a modified public works code compliance trailer is what it's going to be.
Just an enclosed trailer where he'll be his inventory, his storage.
So I guess what I'm saying is alternatively, a less expensive option would be to buy like a shell for the truck that actually has the ability to hold pipes or things like this, the equipment. The question is you're saying that the capacity that he requires is beyond that? Is what?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's we've dealt with it for a couple of years in this little truck that he drives now, and so we feel it's best to go ahead and this trailer will benefit the city as we continue to grow to be a multi-purpose utility vehicle trailer.
And thank you, Chief Simmons, because Chief Simmons is his direct supervisor, and thank you for that. Saved me.
No, absolutely.
As I was mumbling and fumbling over here. And Councilmember Day was being very patient with me, like, dude doesn't know. And I did know those things, but he articulated them.
Mayor Pro Tem.
We planned that out. I hope you
Mayor
know.
Pro Tem, you had a question?
Yeah, I just want to know where you're going to park it, or is it just going to be in the open lot? Do you have it inside the bay? Is there anything specific?
So we will actually, once this trailer's built out, we have that budget for the trailer, for the shelving and stuff that we need to put in there, plus the city logo to go on it, emergency lighting. So if he's out on the road doing road patch, we've got the yellow amber lights to keep traffic off of him. It will be parked in the old, what we call now City Hall storage on 205 that the city still owns. It will be backed inside there.
So it's a towed vehicle?
It's a tow vehicle, it's a trailer, just an enclosed trailer.
Just, okay.
Yes, sir, and it'll be stored inside, just
Okay,
one.
so it's down at the other location?
Yes, sir. It'll be stored inside there, out of the weather, so when he needs to hook up to it, he'll be able to pull it and go where he
Okay.
needs to go.
Thanks, Jim.
Just to interject real quick, we have less than an hour before we have to start the special meeting, and we have to start that on time. So we've got about 30 line items. You got an average of about a
All right,
minute to go
I'm
through.
going to get
per
through
line
these,
item.
and I don't want to shortchange
Yeah,
all of
I'm
you.
just
but
saying, to keep it going, we're going to have to be on time because we have to start on 7:30 to be all right.
My question is just real simple. Are you talking about one axle or two axles on the
Two.
trailer?
Yes, sir.
All right, from there, 9,200 for planning department supplies. We've been encumbered by the council to bring our planning function in-house, and that's our intention. A year ago, almost a year ago, when Mr. Woodbury started, before he started, we were 100% contract, and we had nobody in-house. Now we're trying to go like this. Wean ourselves from the contract and do all in-house. So this helps him, and some of the things that he wants to do with that in the overall, from software, from GIS, software to make maps in-house, and additional things there. City Hall carpet cleaning, we're in year, I think 7 or 8 of this building, and we've never cleaned the carpets. Gross. We just want to have a professional entity come and clean the carpets, make it last longer, make it look vibrant it up, and clean it up for all our residents through there. If you skip the next one, because that's not general fund, and we'll talk about the temporary building lease in a second, pavers for the monument. We have, and Councilmember McLendon's been over and done lots of stuff with the Memorial Day and Labor Day monument that we have over there. We received a tree and a monument marker, and they call it, I believe, the Patriot Tree or Veterans Tree or something like that. But we have a sign and a marker. What we'd like to do is get pavers and make a walkway from our existing monument and memorial there and bring it up to the tree so people can also go and utilize and go see that tree as it grows and develops. It's actually doing very healthy and doing very well. And so as it grows year after year, we'd like to encourage and invite people so they don't have to walk on the grass and get the shoes all messy, and they can walk on pavers. And so that's what that's for. Next one is an ongoing cost, as you see. It's an employee cost that's added there. We are suggesting overall in this budget, and I failed to say it when we were talking about salary, of 1 new employee in the public safety department and a part-time employee in the administration. And let me explain right now with the 53,750, this salary and benefits, and that changes the part-time administrative assistant that you approved in last year's budget, that actually Ms. Jennings had that job, that initial job, where she works from 2 to 5 on Monday through Thursday and all day Friday, to make sure that there's always somebody at the front window to meet and greet and answer calls and a plethora of things there. Since she's gone to the city secretary, we haven't had anybody. So, and to help the planning function, we'd like to create a part-time planning technician to work with ASA, but also be that person that's the administrative assistant that you've already approved and that's already in the budget. So this will add to that to make that part-time position a full-time. It will benefit the planning. It will benefit everybody else in the building as we have somebody there full-time instead of part-time up at the front desk. That's what that is. TMRS COLA, we mentioned it a little bit. We put it in the budget. We mentioned it quickly to you. It's up to the different cities. You can decide or not decide. What this does is, as people retire, resign, leave the city, once they meet the thresholds that is required by TMRS, which is 5 years to public service, then the city would, as long as they only work the time that they just work for the city, if they leave our city and go somewhere else, it would be just the time of the city, and the council would allow them to receive cost of living adjustments in their retirement. And why is there money right now? Well, they identify how big we are. They do the analysis at TMRS and say, well, we're going to have you start putting away money every year for that eventuality when you start paying a cost of living. So if a cost of living, so say you get X, which is a pension through TMRS, you get $1,000. As inflation goes up 3% this year and 7% the other year and 4% the next year, that $1,000 stays at $1,000 right now. It doesn't change. So your ability, your value of your dollar to pay for goods and services diminishes as inflation. You all know that through economics. But this is saying at the rate of the inflation rate, they'll jump this COLA to the retired employee. And so if it's a 3% inflation rate, they'll get that 1,000 plus 3%. and it'll stay with them. Then it'll pop to whatever, I mean, based on the inflation rate for that. So that's what we have that in there for. You have not, you would have to approve an ordinance, we'd have to come back to you, but we thought it may be a good thing for you to review. If we, again, these budgets overall, I'm going to overall now, are, the accounting of these budgets are zero-based accounting. So meaning that at the end of the year, FY '24, this current year, September 30th, it's zero-based, all the line items. We're done, zero. And we pick up any excess and put it in unrestricted fund balance. So it's zeroed out, and then FY '25 comes over. So it's like, oh, I had, see, the fire chief does this until we taught him. I still have $175 left in my office supply. No, you don't. September 30th, it went to zero. And then whatever you got approved for the next year goes in there. So we don't accumulate, we accumulated in one time, and that's where our fund balance come from. And then, which is not restricted, it's up to the council. And we'll talk about that fund balance in a little bit as I hurry through this, but that's what that is. So you'll have to go through an ordinance and we'll have to discuss it, and you'll have to, and we'll get real specific with you so you know where that is about the TMRS cost, right there, retirement plan cost. Software subscriptions continue going up. Instead of that software company sending you physical software, virtually everything's going into the cloud. And so, which has its pros and cons, but their annual costs of doing business with them. And this is for all our softwares throughout the general fund. That's where that $4,200 goes to. Printed materials, looking at and ArcGIS software, which we talked about earlier as part of that, is that $4,200. Christmas banners, we'd like to buy Christmas banners and hang them throughout the town during Christmas season, get a little more festive for all of our residents to and promote our city and promote Christmas time or holidays or however you want to celebrate it. So that's the thought behind that. That's not a lot of money in that game when you have to buy hardware and the banners, but it's a start, and it's something to start wishing the happy holidays to our residents as well through the city. That's what that is. The $20,000 is a comprehensive plan revision. It's contracting out with a Kimley Horn or some other contracted entity and updating our current comprehensive plan. The current comprehensive plan states that every 3 to 5 years that we update it, it's been 3 to 5 years. And so that's what you approved before. That's why we put that in there. If you think this isn't the right year to do it, don't do it. But if you think that would help, do it. As I said before, the budget is balanced right now. To say, oh, we don't have enough money. Unless you have something that's not on these lists, I'd like to have this put in the budget. We got to find it. If you put something new into the budget, we have to find what we're going to take out of the budget. So just keep that in mind too. The second is something that the council has talked about, the planning commission talks about. Just talked to the planning commission chair the other day, and he recommended this highly too, is an ordinance revision. Looking at our subdivision ordinance and our zoning ordinance revision, that again would be a contracted entity coming in, working with our staff and our people to update that. So as we get into the commercial game, which we're in, do we want to have a unified exterior facilities for all of our commercial? I've heard lots of council members say, yes, we do. We want it to look great, but we don't have anything in our ordinance right now requiring it. So that would go through and now we're starting. We're going to get a lot of commercial entities in this next year coming and knocking at our door already. People are looking, and what do you want, and how do you want it, and how do you want, and creating not just commercial, but outdated per state law and others that we have currently on the books. And I'm sure we could send Councilmember Day through the books and he can find a lot of things that it's like, this is way outdated. I hope it's not a lot, but I know there's some. So that's the percentage of that. 47,500, the Heritage Center, that's the remaining that we owe on the current contract. We've already paid about 37 or something like that to them. And that's the remaining portion that the council's already agreed to. And give my little 2 cents. Tomorrow is the town hall meeting. We're going to have 12 architects here. And they're going to be here for the town hall to answer citizens' questions. We hope, and we sent out a message to all the HOAs. So hopefully the HOA presidents will kick it out to all their HOA members that there's the town hall meeting tomorrow from 6 to 7:30. And they're going to go through, they have a whole presentation and everything ready to rock and roll to just inform our residents. Hopefully we can get the word out. I know we're late, but it's something that I think will be a great thing. And designing this heritage facility and center behind us, that's tomorrow. That's the remaining part of what that is. And as you know, when you entered it, it wasn't currently in the budget. But now we want to put the remaining in the budget. A citywide survey, thank you. I believe in surveys. I believe that they're great decision documents. As you ask residents things that pertain to this, what's going on in the city, I think it's a fantastic thing to justify. Councils make it a lot easier for councils to create a solid, resident-worthy budget as they see how we're doing, how we're not doing, and how we're doing, and frustrations as well as great things that happen throughout the city. And we've been given, it's kind of a weird number, the 22,800, but we've been given that number as a bid from a tremendously good. I've done surveys my entire life in cities, and this is probably one of the top companies that's local here in the Metroplex area to do that. And anyway, 7,300 is planner training, kicking off some of the state organizations that he hasn't been to network with and to send our planner to some of those things, and just be around other planners. So as one time the mayor says, so, we don't need that contract, or we'll slow down that need for that contract, because he'll have a network of lots and lots of other planners as he goes to these trainings and meets with these people. Street signs, the chief talked about that as part of the trailer. We have, I think, 4 McLendon-Chisholm street signs that are out there. We'd like to get more, but as we go and updating our ordinances, we'll require all the new developments to purchase all the signs themselves. So the city will start going backwards and not pay anything for street signs, but it's sort of catching up for what's out there right now. So we can get, and I think they're cool street signs. Has our logo, gives us identity as a city, and it's exciting to have that identity as a city. And we have 2 different colors. We have green for the city and blue for the city's ETJ that has the logo, because we like to recognize and tell people that, you may not be directly in the city, but you're in our ETJ, and we want you to be part of us that way. And I think the mayor's talked about that in the past. And all city or employee and committees, barbecue event. We would do that joint with the city employees and committees and the commissions, and have a partner and have a nice hamburger, hot dog, barbecue. And you know what? All hamburgers and hot dogs taste better when barbecued by the fire department. So we'd like to use that money for that. And then the other 2,500, as you're aware, and I didn't write this, but but we try to give a turkey to our staff at Thanksgiving time. And we sort of jokingly call it that, what's written there. 5,000 for a plotter, and so we can make the poster signs, and when every council member says, can you make this map of this and that? Yeah, we can make it right now. We can jump into ArcGIS, and what layers do you want on it? Do you want the streets? Do you want, I mean, tell us all the layers, and we'll be able to kick it out right here in office for you to do it. And when you say, God, I can't see that, well, we can make this part of the map big and beautiful just how you want it, make it to fit. So that's our thoughts on that, with that plotter and then the street signs. And that's all, that's the general fund. That's all in general fund that I just said. So let me go quickly to the public safety fund. And that's, keep on going down. And we're skipping the office furniture, and I'm coming back to that. But gear and supplies, fire equipment, which you'll see on the right, the different Class A uniforms, body cameras, and FM is fire marshal. And so FM, code compliance, FM vehicle, and then a command vehicle. Those are the ones, and then at the very bottom on the next column on ongoing, there's a employee cost. And that's salary and benefits, as you see, for a full-time fire marshal position. So I told you that there was one position added to this budget, new position, and that's that one. And then that part-time would be to make a full-time equivalent from the admin assistant and the planning technician. So that's what all the new costs, those are the big things. And now let me go back to two of them or four of them that I haven't. Back to 100, 514, 51400, which is building maintenance repairs, the description. It's a temporary building lease. And electrical, and why we put electrical, I'll tell you in a second. But ongoing would be the $15,816. What's ongoing? It's the annual lease. It's about 1,200, 15,816 divided by 12. Ask Mr. Ritz, he can have it in his head. He's our math major here. So, I mean, it's 15,816 a year, and that's the lease cost. So monthly is 15,816 divided by 12. The one time is for them to haul it over here, hook it up, and why we say and electrical, 60,000 of that 74,000 is what they proposed for the cost of running electricity to there. And that just blows my mind that it costs that much money. I asked them if they moved a decimal to the right and should have moved it to the left on that. And they said, no, that's kind of after COVID and everything, that's how much it costs. It's fully outfitted, the temporary trailer or temporary building, electric wise. So it's just getting it from the creation of a new panel or whatever we need. All we're going to use is lights, and a plotter, a printer. I mean, there's not a lot of huge power generated over there. Maybe heat. I mean, no, they wear coats. We'll buy them city coats one time. Anyway, so that's the cost. And I didn't do an overview, but let me tell you the overview. We're running out of space. We've run out of space. We have our management analyst and our planner working on a flex schedule because we have one office that they share and they can't share it at the same time. So they go 3-2, 3-2, 3-2 throughout the week. They do an excellent job in that flex schedule. This is possibly bringing them in and negotiating and maybe getting a 5-0 or a 4-1 or something, getting them here more often than doing that. But they're always here. They're always working. They do a great job. So don't think that. But that temporary building would create 4 offices, and then you walk into like a conference room. So, and then the 20,000 that you saw there at 100, 703, 70300 office furniture would be a desk, a chair, a couple of visiting chairs, a conference room table, and chairs around it. It's just those 4 offices, whatever it costs, for that, just to get the basic, so they can make it an office over there. So that's what it is. So that is a hefty. If we think we can get that electrical way down, so it looks high, and it is high for a temporary building, but that gives us 4 more offices. It frees up offices, two offices. So we have 3 people to go over there. We have a code enforcement, our planner, our management analyst. So we'd have an empty one to start, but then we'd as we move and the city wants to do things, there'd be an extra thing. Or potentially, if the city updates the building here as we potentially bond or something into the future, we could add on and get rid of that temporary building. The plan is a temporary 2 to 4 or 5 years be in there as the city decides where we're going. And if the city decides don't need it, we'll move it back and do that back. All right, so those are the things that were funded, where they come from, how they get there. There's the one-time cost of the general fund is $191,000 that we talked about. The one-time cost for the fire is $182,000 approximately. The ongoing for the general fund is $62,950. The fire is $115,000. And of course, the sewer treatment is $100,000, which we've talked about. The next page to that is things that were not approved, that were asked, and we're not going to go through those specifically with that. So with those, you got the major new ask in the budget. It's like, what's new in the budget? Well, all the operational things are the same as they've always been, but these are the new asks, the new things, you decide whether that's the area, that's the direction or not that you want us to go. And then we talked about the salary, the tax plan, and the utility fund. And now I'll turn it over real quickly to our fire chief to do the public safety. And Mayor, how much does he have? Just a few minutes?
Well, the reason I want to go try is, I would rather go back to questions if you're good with that, because then we can just go down the line, because we've got about 30 minutes, and to make it a workshop, and not a speech, we have to allow these guys to be able to ask the questions that they have on the budget, because this is going to have to go through. So
we were going to hit him for about 5 or 10 minutes and then open it up.
Are you good with us just going straight to questions? And if they're good, if we have time, then we can give you that last bit. But I'd like to allow the council members to have questions. Councilmember Easter, we'll start with you. And the good news is maybe some of these questions will get answered before they get to the next person. Councilmember Brewer, do you have anything, good sir? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember McLendon. Yeah, it's been a very long day. I apologize.
I don't see fire equipment maintenance being accounted for. So what are we going to do about that when it comes to having a budget for your equipment going down throughout the year, breaking it, we need to repair it?
So we do have a budget line for vehicle fleet maintenance repairs. We do have that in the budget, and we actually reduced that line out a little bit this year because of the
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And then, so the citywide surveys, that's just one survey?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize, Councilmember McLendon, for calling me Councilmember Brewer, which I will refrain from any other fun comments because you're both handsome gentlemen. Councilmember Brewer.
Good comeback, Mayor.
Just for the public's consumption, what's the justification for creating the fire marshal position?
We're always trying to make sure that we're prepared for what's coming in the future. And so the fire marshal position now will help take that load of a lot of the meetings that happen with pre-construction meetings, plan reviews, and things like that. We've actually got a new fee schedule to where what the fire marshal's division will actually be charging for some of these in the near future. I think that's being presented to you in September, last meeting of this month or 1st of October. He'll also be able to assist with code compliance, being that he is a police officer, state of Texas peace officer. He will be able to assist code compliance with everyday code compliance issues that need be if Mark gets overwhelmed since the city continues to grow, but also with investigations. And he will be over many programs in the fire station now and the firehouse that will take some of that off of me, which allow me to continue on being the chief that I need to be to focus on the political stuff and all the maintaining and maintenance of the budget. So he'll be my number 2 guy. He's going to take some relief off of me as well.
One of the things that fire marshals do is investigate crimes as well.
Correct.
So do you have the facilities for evidence processing, evidence collection, that kind of thing?
Good question. So when we built this station back in the day, there was a lot of talk of the DPS concept. So we built that station to be able to fit that concept if the city ever went to it. When we talk about the guys being triple certified, wearing, cross-dressing many ways. And so we did build an evidence room that is a single point access only by TCO licensed personnel. So right now I'm the only one that has access to it. And then the second individual that had access to it would be the fire marshal, Eddie Stout.
And for like reports and stuff, do you already have like a basic software package?
We do. We use
a bit to allow him to do.
He has all the software package. We run a program called ESO and then EHR. So we have our fire reporting software, which actually also has our inspection software in it, planning review software, and then we have EHR, which is our medical software. It's all one company, but we do already have all that in play.
And do we have, do you keep stats like in this past year if we had a fire marshal or these kind of things that come up that requires a fire marshal? A rough estimate of how many times we do that?
I mean, the fire marshal can be called in many ways. Obviously, structure fires within the city, the fire marshal is going to come out and do an investigation to determine the origin and cause of this fire. We do have a fire marshal that comes out with any type of legal burns, can come out and issue citations for those that are habitual offenders that continue to go through. We haven't had a true, it's me. I'm also the fire marshal currently as we speak. But there's been a handful of occasions when it comes to structure fires where we needed a fire marshal. Our fire marshal can assist the county. County doesn't have a county fire marshal. They only come out if there's a fatality fire or requested to come out, something suspicious, and they have for us in the past, and it's been great. But now we can actually probably eliminate some of that and help our county partners out as well by having him available in our fire district to be able to assist on some of those.
Councilmember Day.
2 questions, and thank you actually for Mr. McLendon's questions. They were very, very well asked and exactly in anticipation of what I was going to ask. In addition, there was a question during the previous year that I've actually had conversations with Conrad about in anticipation of some of the space problems that we're having around here, which is an office rearrangement. Has that been discussed seriously by the staff about in terms of costs and what this would do and whether or not that would be less expensive than some of the options here? And the other one was a lot of constituents. I've received several emails from constituents. I know you've received some emails from constituents as well that are very frustrated over the rate that is being proposed here. And we want to make sure that we are transparent. We know what the rate is. But apparently we don't know what the rate is in advance. You're saying that we got to pass the budget to give the rate as opposed to the other way around? Yes. And so can you provide some clarification on what that looks like if the city council was to say, we're going to go with a different tax rate than the one being proposed in the budget?
Well, the council last time approved a proposed rate. That didn't mean anything. Back in, when we first kicked off our first budget workshop on June 8th, the council, it was discussed and the council sent us staff to work off the voter approval rate. That's the 3.5% allowance for CPI. So that's what's in there, but you'll notice our rate, proposed rate is going from 0.096 6 to 5 to, I mean, I have it right here. You have it too in your budget book, page 40. Well, it's not page 40. It's page 40 in the packet. It's page 8. It's going current year from a .09658 to a .096256. So it's dropping, but with valuations and others, most people's rates will increase, especially because their property tax is tied to also other taxing entities. 3 taxing entities on most McLendon-Chisholm residents' bills, one being the ISD, Rockwell ISD, one being the county, and one being the city. The ISD is over $1 per hundred. The Rockwell County is like .27 or something, about 3 times the cost of our rate, and it's in here too. I mean, it's in the book, and you've seen that in there. But that's, and we're .09, what I just said, 56. So the rate is definitely, people's values have gone up. So they're what they pay in their tax, their .09, will increase some based on the valuation increase for them.
Well, I guess more directly to my question, though, is if we adopt a different rate, at what point would we see a budget that would be reflective of that rate?
Well, we'd just figure out what that rate would bring us. Right now, that rate, as it is, brings, and it's in this budget, it's figured out in your finances, and your revenues. And if you turn to page,
Conrad, do we have the same documents that you do, that you're looking at, or is it
no, you do it.
the digital budget book?
The digital budget book.
Okay, thank you.
If you turn to page under the fund summaries, under revenues, on page 35 of your budget book, you go most in the first column, it says name. If you go down that toward the very bottom,
Conrad, our book only goes up to page 31.
did you get a new one right here? All right, so is that what you gave him? So in this one, it should be the same page, maybe it's updated. All right, go to page 4, which is the same one. It's just, we just did all the numbers here in this one that you got tonight, and we didn't put all the narrative and all the pictures and stuff. So it redid the page numbering, because that's all we ask it to do. Same number as what I was telling you before. If you go to page 4, first column is name. You go down to property tax revenue. You'll see what the actual amount of property tax that we brought in 2023. You'll see what we adopted in the next column in the budget last year. You'll see in the next column how much we're projecting at end of year, which is pretty close because we have 11 months actual in there. But it'll be right there. And then the proposed will be just under that. It's 797,000. So you can kind of put a pencil to that based on if you want to change from the voter approve rate, it'll go down from that 797 and below. If you also look at the expenditures and you look at, as I started, and I hate to keep throwing the chief behind the bus, but he's the biggest expenditure. It's about half of what we pay for the fire department, what we bring in property tax. So when people say, oh, I pay my property tax, well, they do pay a substantial amount of property tax with the ISD, with the county, and with us, but we're way down there on the property tax at 9 cents per $100 of sales tax. But that's how much we bring in. Around 800,000 is what we bring in at the rate that we have proposed here in the book. And that's the max that the state will allow you, unless you want to go higher than that, and then you open it up for the residents to either petition or be mandated to have an election to raise it above. The state's telling elected officials, municipal elected officials, we understand that there's a CPI. Got it. There's inflation. We want to try to keep you at least stable. But don't overdo it. And they're saying, oh, well, this is how you don't overdo it. and with the instructions that I just gave you, that's state law. So, and the second question was, we have not got cost estimates of moving walls, and I think that's what you're saying. We can get those and try to get those quickly and bring them back to you, what that would cost. We just thought that the about $1,200 a month of a 4-office facility isn't cost crazy or cost negative, but it just depends. I mean, that's 4 offices in a temporary setting, and the other would be more permanent, that potentially into the future we could do it right, maybe, as we do an addition onto this current city hall, is the thought process.
Thank you, that's all.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I just had a question, Chief, on the growth of the fire department. Could you give me an idea of what the, I think it came into inception in 2019, am I correct? Was it 2019 that it was transferred over from volunteer to city?
October 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
18, okay, that's good enough. And at that time, how many full-time, how many part-time? Do you remember? And I know it's,
We had the SAFER grant, which we started out with 6 full-time or 6 positions that we had in 2018.
do you remember whether they were full-time all or part-time?
So we had a handful of full-time, the captains were full-time, then we had 2 full-time drivers. At the time, I had an assistant chief, and then we had the part-timers fill that 6 position on shift.
Did you have a second, somebody that you considered second in command at that time?
I did. I had an assistant chief at that time.
Okay. Within the organizational framework, is that still, are you consistent with that?
That position is there, but nobody actually fills it. And actually, with the fire marshal position, he's going to assume some of those roles.
Okay. What's the status of employment now for the fire guys over there? How many full-time, how many part-time?
We run a total of 12 full-timers that you have full-time positions, not including myself, 13 altogether.
Okay.
And then we have about 16 part-timers.
16 part-timers?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, thanks. Beyond that, I'm looking at the ARPA spending that we have, and it looks like we have $954,000 in total available. Am I correct? That last sheet on the back side of the, it's not the last sheet.
Either the council has already directed staff, like the audiovisual.
No, what I'm asking is, that's the total amount of money that's available from ARPA? for
That's the
funding
total
purposes?
amount.
Okay.
And as I explained earlier, that ARPA, as it relates to the federal government, is
Yeah, it's free and clear.
satisfied. yes.
Okay, I just want to get going because I know that the mayor
Yes.
wants to get this thing going too. So a lot of the considerations for one-time spending is actually covered by ARPA, is what I'm seeing. So the speed trailer, the utility trailer, the AV, which was of necessity implemented, even the Heritage Center is greatly funded on that, by the ARPA funding, which is, of course, a one-time funding event.
Correct.
Okay, good enough for me, thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick, does anyone have any other questions or statements or anything? Councilmember Brewer, you said you did?
This is for Conrad. I remembered last time, you talked about in the last council meeting about the taking off from the reserve fund, overages from the reserve fund. Can you, and talking about what you were wanting to do with that?
Right. And I'll try to be, I mean, I could talk for a long time on that. So we had auditors come in and identify that potentially we have too much in an unrestricted fund balance. And to create a capital reserve fund, what I'd like to do, a capital reserve fund for the roads and a capital reserve fund for public safety. These will be 100% controlled by the council, but it'll be a message that we think this is important for now and into the future. Maybe you don't have a police department or a crazy upgrade of the fire department or whatever for years and years and years, but you know that it's coming with growth and other things. So we're starting to put away money in those. So taking money out of those capital funds, or putting in creation of a capital roads fund and a capital public safety fund, and putting a certain amount of money that you decide into that. And then, I don't know if you wanted to bring up the other of potential, why don't you talk about
Okay, so I'll be real quick. My idea was, because these are funds that we weren't planning on necessarily getting, but now we have them available. We owe, after the September 30th payment, $1,085,000 on this building. We could pay it off. There is no early penalty. The interest rates have been tracking. It's a varied interest rate. So it started off at 2%, so it was a lot less. Now we're in the 3%. It'll end in 4%. Within 10 years, between now and 10 years when it's supposed to be paid off, we will have paid $211,000 in interest. But we can pay it off now. We'll be debt-free. That's 1 cent off the total rate, property tax rate, because 1 cent of that is paying the debt. And I throw this out there for y'all's consumption to think about that.
That is not in your balanced budget, but it is in your fund balance. It is in your ability to do, and it's something that our auditors have recommended, maybe not paying off the debt, but you save that interest money that you otherwise pay. And you can evaluate it. I know some of you are thinking, oh, if we, and every one of the bonds are separate every year. That's why they hold different rates. And as you look at that, you could say, oh, well, it's between 2 and 4%, and we get 10% on our money. Why would we want to do it? Well, we don't get 10% on our money because the state requires us to be the number one in our investment policy plan is the number one thing in investment is liquidity. Generally, liquidity is like 4 or 5 or whatever, and number 2 is safety in our investment policy plan. So we invest differently, but if we have that money, and we are investing it now, but you save money and you have no debt. That's our one and only debt right now is that bond and that 1,085. So there's merit in that recommendation.
So this is a workshop, so it's discussion only. I think if anyone, so obviously no actions taken. If there's any other questions, we'll direct those to Conrad after the workshop, so we can allow us a few minutes before we start at 7:30. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the workshop at 7:17, and we'll be back at 7:30 to convene the special meeting.